people, welcome again to another episode of the review on the only Yaya with the one and only Yaya Chino Falaci coming to you live today from Gold Coast, Australia. Today we're just going to be breaking down a few things for you, bringing you a little review based on the last 8 to 9 months of football around Europe and around the rest of the world. We're going to be bringing you just, the European finals and what we thought about those, so the Champions League, the Europa League, the Europa Conference League, and we're going to be breaking down the top 4 leagues in Europe, which is the Bundesliga, the La Liga, the Italian Serie A, and the one and only, the English Premier League. So let's jump into it right away. So we saw Inter Milan and Man City go head to head in the final, and it was a really good final. I enjoyed watching the game. It was end to end. You saw two different styles becoming very competitive against each other. You saw a mid-low to a low block in Inter Milan, where you saw Man City actually allowing Inter Milan to have lots of possession in the first half, which forced City to have to change during the half and have to try to take a bit more of the ball off of Inter Milan, which then you saw Inzaghi again go to trying to sit back and hit City on the counter just to give his players a bit of a breather, so they could have brought on Lukaku to spread the game. I think Lukaku came on a bit too early into the game because of an injury that went to Dzeko, so that kind of played the manager's hands to play his secret weapon, as I might say, a bit too early into the game, which then gave City that dominance because Lukaku isn't too good at holding up the ball, but with space in behind, he's dangerous. As we saw, he had a few chances in the latter stages of the game where Inter Milan had a lot more space in behind City, where he was a bit dangerous, but he also, I think, was paid by City to block a few shots for Inter Milan. But that's another story. So yes, we saw Man City would not only win the treble, but they won the Champions League. And then we see Roma play Sevilla again, yet again, another great encounter in which managers' hands were forced, I feel, a bit early in terms of their what they wanted to do, their plan in the game. If you saw, Jose Mourinho had to make 2 subs before the 50th minute in the game. He had to take off Dybala, who wasn't fit for most of the season, and also his best striker and one of the best strikers throughout Europe for the season in English striker Tammy Abraham, based due to injuries, where you saw Sevilla build back into the game and force Roma back. You saw Sevilla win the cup again after extra time. They won 4-1 on penalties, and now they crown Europa League champions once again. And yet again, they are in the Champions League, which they might get knocked out again. But that's how it works. And then you see, coming again to you with the Europa Conference League, we saw West Ham win their European trophy, even coming 10th in the or they were actually fighting relegation. I apologize, they did not come 10th. They were actually fighting relegation for most of the season. And now they are in the Europa League next season. They are actually in the same league of teams like Brighton, who has qualified for the Europa Champions League. And Brighton is playing some of the best football throughout Europe right now. So it just shows, sometimes you might not do great in the league, but because of these European competitions, you have a chance to compete for trophies and to build momentum that will not only help your club financially, but it would also help the morale of the players of your team. So now let's break down the Serie A. Let's start now with the Serie A. So Napoli were the champions by 16 points. They actually won 90. The team that came after them was Lazio, who had 74 points. As we saw, Napoli was actually really good this season. They actually had probably the best top 2 or 3 out of the top 5 players, in not only the Champions League, but I would say also in the Serie A. When you look at Victor Osimhen, how dominant he was. When you look at Vicha, um, Cavadano, Maradona. It's so hard to pronounce his name, man. But you know, it's the Georgian winger that played for Napoli. Very good player, but we'll get more into him. You also saw Inter Milan and AC Milan qualify for the Champions League. So you had Napoli, Lazio, AC Milan, and Inter Milan qualify. Now Juventus got a ban for 10 points. They actually got the ban for 15 points firstly, and then they got the points back, which then put them into a Champions League play spot. And a few weeks before, I think it was the first week of May, so a few weeks before the league finished, they were docked 10 points again. So if Juventus didn't lose this 10 points, they would have been drawn with Inter Milan on 72 points, which would allow them to play next year's Champions League. But because they lost those 10 points, AC Milan is there with 70. So this means that AC Milan would not have qualified for the Champions League if Juventus did not get that points deduction. But that just shows that also helped AC Milan as a club retain some of their best players like Rafael Leao and Hernandez and sorry, and even Tomori, who was really good this season for AC Milan. Now also we look at players like Victor Osimhen and also Kavicha, who is actually a top player in the Serie A at the moment, and they for me were the players of the season. Now Victor Osimhen won it, but I also thought his teammate was very integral in helping him get to that level that he needed to get. I feel like without him and without I can't remember the name of that player, but in Casia or something, the midfielder. I would have to do more research on that breakdown. But basically, Engisa, which is the midfielder, and they just helped Osimhen bring out the best in Osimhen game. Now we look over on the other side and we look at Germany, where we saw the young English magician Jude, the Real Madrid number 5 Bellingham, help dominate the Bundesliga. We saw Dortmund and Bayern fight it out to the end, into the last game of the season, as Dortmund needed a win as much as Bayern needed a win, and Dortmund failed to win by drawing a game against I think it was Mainz 2-2. Late goals scored. Actually, Mainz had Dortmund. They were leading Dortmund and they lost the game. Bayern won the game 2-1 to FC Cologne. Bayern fought back real hard after having their manager, a change of manager, losing in the Champions League to the best team in Europe, Man City. They also were having not the greatest run of form under their new manager, Thomas Tuchel, and yet still they won the Bundesliga. So it just shows me a few things, that sometimes your run of form might not be the best, but you're picking up points in those vital times and in those vital weeks where other teams drop points. And sometimes people don't understand that leagues run based on a point system, and these point systems are based on how it goes per week. Now, your challenger cannot lose a game a season, but that don't mean that you don't win the league. You know, like, you can draw, just like what happened here. Bayern Munich won 4 games and lost 1. Dortmund were undefeated for the last 5 games, yet they still lost the league because they drew 2 games, which lost them 4 points. Bayern lost 1 game, which made them lose 3 points. So lost 1 game, which made them lose 3 points. So that just shows how the point system works, and that was a real good challenge by Dortmund and Bayern. I just think that Bayern Munich just wins the league every year, man. Like, it's just what they do. It's like in League One where PSG just wins it every year. Like, and even this year they struggled, which, you know, a lot of things plays into that. Like, the World Cup during the season and all the competitions and the international breaks during the season and how fatigued players are and the demands on their body. And now you see it even in the World Cup, we saw the longest halves ever in a football game just on a normal full time, where we were seeing games of like 9 to 8 minutes added on at the end of a regular first half or a second half because there was a small VAR decision. But it just shows that now players' bodies can't take as much, and that's why you need bigger squads. And it actually showed that the team with the biggest and the best squad actually won the treble and the European football this season, which was Man City. Now straight into it, we saw that the player of the season, Jude Bellingham, got a move to the probably the best club in the world at the moment in terms of recruitment, in terms of how many Champions Leagues they've won in the last couple of years, in terms of stature, in terms of history, in terms of everything. You just have to name Real Madrid. He got his move. And also another player that I thought was really good in the Bundesliga was Christian Nkunku. Of course, we know him for his goals and everything, but he actually had 21 or 22 goal involvements in 26 Bundesliga games. So I think that just goes unmentioned because, you know, he's not hitting the 30 goal numbers, but he actually did well this season. And then straight as Bellingham just caught the plane and he went straight into Real Madrid, we have Antonio Griezmann, the Frenchman, picking up player of the season in La Liga. We saw Barcelona winning by 10 points. They had 88 points. Real Madrid second. We saw Real Sociedad get the Champions League place and Atletico Madrid 1 point behind Real Madrid. Antonio Griezmann had a great season. He was actually my player picked of the season as well. I think he was really good. I think that he plays in this central attacking, false nine, roaming. He just plays wherever he wants and finds the spaces and makes things happen. And I feel like he's not an orthodox striker because he doesn't have the build to be a striker, but he gets in positions where a striker would be to be very pivotal to finish. Yet he picks up small pockets and are very dangerous in linking play and getting assists by playing as like a centre forward. It's like what, you know, like you set your player up in FIFA and you tell him free roam, get in behind, get into small spaces. That's exactly what he does. He just gets into small spaces, free roams, find the space and makes things happen. And that's why I think he won player of the season. I don't think anyone else deserved it. I didn't think La Liga had that much of a stand-up player. I think they had some really good talents there and really good talent show out, but I don't think anyone really dominated La Liga. That's not to say Vinicius and Benzema and players like that didn't have great seasons. And Gavi and Frankie de Jong and Lewandowski, we can name so many, Rafinha. But it's just about the impact that this player had for his team, Atletico Madrid, was just unsung. And what happened to Real Madrid? Well, you see, Barcelona got knocked out of the Champions League group stages. That's why they ended up playing Manchester United in the Europa League, where they were defeated actually by Manchester United. And Barcelona won the league by 10 points. Now, Real Madrid was the best team in Europe for the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years. Barcelona was in a transition. Even during the transfer window, we saw them facing so many FFP allegations and them selling their media rights for the next 25 years and them doing them selling their stadium name to Spotify, which you saw was such a financial benefit for Spotify, where Spotify now has improved the app. They have made their signings better. They have made their app where people are more interactive on it. You can actually have a proper following now. Like, they've actually done so much since they've signed their name on the Spotify Camp Nou. And we see that Barcelona, they're in that level of transformation and they're in that level where they're really trying to get their team back to the top of European football. But Real Madrid was there and they didn't, they didn't push for the league, and it wasn't that they had bad injuries because they had their full squad. I knew they had a little injury to Karim Benzema, but the La Liga, Vinicius, Valverde, Rodrigo, we name it, Mariano, Hazard, even if he hasn't played much, Asensio, these players should be able to get Real Madrid over that line in the absence of Benzema against La Liga teams that I would say they beat week in, week out. But it didn't happen. Barcelona were champions. Xavi had his young midfield combination of a Frankie de Jong with a Gavi, a Pedri, a Sergio Busquets. We saw also Frank Kessia. We saw some good talents play for Barcelona this season. And while we saw that, we see also Real Madrid now losing Karim Benzema to Saudi Arabia. And we see that they are very much interested in Mbappe and Harry Kane. Now, Harry Kane is a bit too expensive for lots of teams because teams look at his age and he's 29 going on 30. Yes, he's smashing goals every season, but he's also has like niggling ankle injuries where at that age, if it becomes a problem, which it already is a bit of a problem, then you're losing really $100 million. You're back to the same place because you buy a player for 100 plus million. He comes to your club, he doesn't play because he's injured, not because he's a wholesome name or he's a elite player means that you're getting benefits because he's selling shirts. We're seeing teams like Manchester United do that for seasons, and look where they are at the moment. They are still in transition after 10 years. So you have to think about all these things in terms of buying Harry Kane and why Manchester United is interested and why Real Madrid is interested. And that is why you have to look at that risk and think, well, you know, I probably should just buy two young strikers and add them to my my squad and then let them fight between each other and maybe bring in an experienced one. But we'll bring you more information when we bring you more Harry Kane details to Manchester United in other videos. But right into it, I gave you all that detail to say that Harry Kane would have probably been my player of the year over Haaland. Why? Yes, Haaland scored 37 goals. It was his debut season. But he was in the best team in Europe. And not only that, but Man City won the league without a number 9. So them now having a prolific number 9, I mean, there is no way he can't not win the league. You know, and there's no way he would not score goals. And if you listen to Erling Haaland, lots of his interviews, he tells you he watched Man City for like the last 6 months when they play, and he saw so many balls go across the face of the goal in games where he was like, yo, I need to be there, I want to be there. You should check out that interviews with Rio Ferdinand, how they break down his movement, they break down lots of things about him. But yeah, my player of the season would be Harry Kane because Harry Kane scored 30 goals in the Premier League in a team that was struggling. Tottenham was struggling, their second best player wasn't playing well. They have an average midfield. Their coach said how poor they were all season. He actually called them a bunch of crap, basically. And you hear Jose Mourinho making the same terms about them and statements and stuff about them. And he scored 30 plus Premier League goals. You know, they played, they were in the Champions League group stages. And they did well. I must say Tottenham did as good as Tottenham can do and as much as we think Tottenham is good at doing. What? I apologize. So, breaking down the Premier League and the hottest league in Europe, Haaland had 36 goals and 8 assists. He was the player of the season. My transfer of the year personally would also be Erling Haaland. I mean, we see expensive players like with the English tax, like we see Declan Rice, they're asking 100 million. We see them asking 80 million for Mason Mount. We see them asking 80 million for Caicedo. We see them asking ridiculous amounts of money. We see Manchester United paying 80 million for Harry Maguire. We see ridiculous amounts of English taxes being put around here, and Ian Haaland came for 60 million. No noise came from Dortmund. Smashing in goals came to City, broke records. Like, that is what you need. If Haaland came for 100 million, I don't think it would have really affected him. He probably would have scored 50 goals. But because he came for a low price, there was no pressure. He didn't have much to think about. He was playing in a team that was playing well, one of the best in the world. Like, he had none to really. He was comfortable, so all he had to do was put a ball in the back of the net, and that's what he did. And you have to commend him. And I think he was also one of my transfers of the year. Now, another transfer of the year for me would be Lucas Paqueta. That is another top midfielder. One for me as well, Casemiro. Top player, top midfielder. For me, Arsenal bringing in Jorginho in the January transfer window was a really good buy for them. I think he really helped calm Arsenal a bit down, but they just didn't have that extra amount of quality to make them take that step to win the Premier League. And just talking about Arsenal, I just want to verify something to the Arsenal fans. I have to take a minute to laugh because I have to get at you lads. Arsenal tried to win no cups this season but the Premier League, right? I should have had a bottle to swing around because y'all the top bottlers. You played a weekend team in the Europa League. Not a weekend team, but you went there thinking you would beat Sporting and you didn't, which you could have a chance to win another cup. You didn't play your strongest team in the Carabao Cup. You didn't want to go after the FA Cup. So you put all your eggs in one basket. So this is a lesson to you kids and everyone watching this video. Take it from Yaya. Do not lay all your eggs in one basket, people. Ask Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, he is the best person to tell you what happens when you do that. You lose to the best. You always lose to the best. You have somebody over there throwing stones after mangoes under the tree and they happen to just drop some bricks on your eggs and all your eggs in one basket. Finish. You're dozen. You can't buy anymore. You're broke. But let's just get back onto the topic. Just listen. Arsenal, you bottled the trophy. I told y'all will lose the trophy. Y'all did not push Man City. Y'all were not in a title race. Y'all were leading the title. Y'all had a chance to win the title. But eventually everyone knew Man City was going to win it. They won it with like 4 or 5 games to go. And Arsenal fans will say, oh yeah, but look at when other teams lost it. They lost it by 12 points. We only lost it by 5. But at the end of the day, Man City had 4 or 5 games left. They played like no one against Brentford. They played no one against other teams. They didn't care. They already won the league. Team of the year. My team of the year would be, in goal, I would say it's Hardy for me in goal. Most times the keeper that you put in goal is the keeper who gets the most clean sheets. So the keeper that wins the Golden Glove. Do I believe De Gea is the best goalkeeper in England at the moment? He is probably one of the best shot stoppers. Probably one of the best. I think he goes on a bit very under the radar in terms of playing the ball with his feet. I think statistically, okay, yeah, there's proof. And when you look at him playing under pressure, he's a bit panicked. But he's never had to done that. So he's played on Ferguson, he's played on the Van Gaal, he's played on the Mourinho. He hasn't never played on the manager that has wanted him to use his feet to play football as much as this manager wants him to. So unless we see a massive improvement in the way he plays with his feet, I think he would always just be that little one level in terms of an overall goalkeeper over an Alisson or an Edison. But for me personally, my goalkeeper of the season would be the champions goalkeeper, Edison. I think he was phenomenal. I think he made some really good saves this season. He made 1 or 2 mistakes, but he doesn't make as many mistakes as he used to, and I feel like his maturity level has lifted to that point where he just deserves it. Um, my right back would be, oh, it's tough. I would say Kyle Walker, champions. Centre backs, Akanji. One of my centre backs would be Akanji. My other centre back, you could say, is um, William Saliba or Lisandro Martinez would have made that list for me. But because they had a prolonged injury, and because they had a prolonged injury and they did not play as many games to the end of the season, I would say that my other player of the season in centre back would be, I would just give it to Gabriel. Just because consistently he was there for a team that picked up the second most points in the league. He played every other game. He scored goals. Defensively, he was sound. He was really good at what he did. He tried to. He's not the most English speaking player, but you can tell he tried to communicate with his teammates all the time. Yes, he got burnt, and yes, he got beaten sometimes, and yes, he was behind the pace, but I think he will improve, and I think he was really good. Do I think he was better than William Saliba or Lisandro Martinez? No. But what I think is he deserved to be mentioned because of him being consistently there for a young team that came second. At left back, no doubt, Luke Shaw improved. He's probably also my most improved player for the season. In terms of reaching that level of what we thought he could. Also Marcus Rashford, but him for sure 100%. Luke Shaw was phenomenal at left back this season. Played centre back sometimes when Lisandro Martinez wasn't there. Played in a back three. Even after Manchester United losing those two games, lost his spot to a youngster who was just a bit more tenacious and fierce than him, and he came back and he's probably now the best left back in the world. In the midfield, for me, Rodri makes it. Kevin De Bruyne easily makes it for me. And you know what? I'm gonna say Bruno Fernandes. Now people will say, oh, what are you talking about? Look at his numbers. Statistically, his numbers are comparable to Kevin De Bruyne, Martin Odegaard. He is creating more chances in a team that is lower than those players' teams. He is statistically he's comparable to theirs, so I feel like he could get into that team. Also, Odegaard is a big shout because he was really good, but I just think that Rodri, De Bruyne, and Bruno Fernandes was excellent. Also, you can say good again, but I just don't want to put a full Man City team in there. To be fair, I would just pick their three. You could also say Casemiro fits in there somewhere, but we're going with 1-6 today. We're going with the 4-3-3. On up top, I would say my three is Haaland, definitely, he gets there. Harry Kane, 100%, he gets there. And this one for me is a hard one. Now, this is why I think this is a hard one for me. Marcus Rashford smashed the league, was in the run of form of his life. Salah, does Salah again, scored so many goals for Liverpool and they didn't have a great season. But I also feel that Bukayo Saka deserves an honorable mention here. And people might not give Saka his credits because he's a young boy, he goes around doing his thing, and he doesn't really have that flash, he doesn't have that superstar persona, he doesn't demand that vibe in the room when he walks and you're like, oh, this is a superstar. And some players just go under the radar because of that. They can have great numbers every season, but they just don't get the recognition they deserve. So I would say Bukayo Saka, but it has to be Salah, Harry Kane, and Erling Haaland. I don't care where Salah came in the league, I don't care what happened. I just think Salah, Haaland, and Harry Kane are the best three forwards in the league, and they deserve to be up there. So that's my team of the season. Now, my manager of the season would go to either Eric Ten Hag or Unai Emery. Now, why I gave these two managers, Eric Ten Hag took a very bad Manchester United team. You see every player on that team have improved. They came third in the league. They got to a final of the FA Cup. They won the Carabao Cup. They got to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. Okay, it's the Europa League. But they were knocked out by the champions. Sevilla, who knocked out everyone because they are the champions. And then you have them losing to Man City in the FA Cup, which was the best team in Europe. And you have them winning the Carabao Cup. Third in the Premier League. You have Unai Emery, who took an Aston Villa team who was with Slippy G, who was slipping very much at the bottom of the table, and you see him bring that team into a European Europa League place. You also have De Zerbi from Brighton. You had Mikel Arteta, who rightfully deserves a bit of a mention for having a run with Arsenal towards the Premier League title. You have Pep Guardiola, of course, but as Pep Guardiola, I feel like we don't really give Pep Guardiola his props in terms of his level of management. Yes, he gets great players, and that's another conversation to be had, but in terms of what he did, he brought back having 4 solid defenders playing when people thought that you need to have these great ball playing first before defending like style, and Pep Guardiola showed you that goals win games, but defenses win championships. They had the least conceded goals in the Champions League. I think it was only 5. And in that run to them going to the final from the round of 16, I think they only conceded 1 goal. They also scored some of the most goals in Europe. Their goal scorer, I think, nearly smashed it. He smashed so many goals. I think if he continues at the rate at which he's going, he'll probably break the record that they say he needs to score 50 goals for the rest of his career to catch Messi and Ronaldo. I think after this season, can we really say that he can't do that? So, my manager of the year will really be, and I just have to give it to him, is Unai Emery. And why I give Unai Emery is because Unai Emery you never see Unai Emery go take up a job that is easy. You always see him go take a team like Villarreal, get them to European championships, get them playing in the finals, get them playing in the semi-finals, get them all about. Now people actually respect Villarreal again. And I think he'll do the same for Aston Villa. And he's already demanding that, and you're seeing top players like Watkins, even McGinn, who we thought was an average footballer. You see him using his physicality and his fitness to make Aston Villa a better team. So I just believe Unai Emery deserved it, and if he didn't get it, I think Eric Ten Hag deserved it. Even if he didn't get a mention, I would really put him up there. Also, Thomas Frank is a good shout with Brentford, but I just actually believe that is either Eric Ten Hag with the Ronaldo situation and all that, and Unai Emery. So, yes, one last thing on the radar, and that is just a little thing I call on the radar, which is the 4 players I've picked throughout the European season that has really brought my attention and has really made me love watching other teams, but they don't really get that mention that they really deserve in terms of they're not the highlight players. I'm telling you, that superstar, that elite player that walk into a room and demand that energy, and they will get there, I reckon, but at the moment they're not, and I just think that they deserve a mention. So they are Koulibaly from the French striker from Frankfurt, top player, goals, assists. He was really good this season. I think he was good in the World Cup as well. He is now linked to teams like Manchester United and Bayern Munich because of how good he was this season. Lucas Paqueta, Brazilian midfielder, what a player. I mean, if you just have time, people, just go on, just Google, just YouTube. just a little clip of Lucas Paqueta and just watch how he brings this elegance and this flair and Brazilian style to football. It's amazing to watch actually. Also, I have a Kanji from Man City, Swiss footballer, such a good defender. Young man came for no price, stayed under the radar, got fitter, did his thing, and he's actually played the most games as a defender for Man City. So we should actually really think about that when we look at what Man City achieved this season, where Akanji came from, how much he cost Man City, and the impact he had. He played left back, right centre back, everywhere this season for Man City. And the last person I would say is the Hungarian midfielder from Leipzig, Zopasoli, which is the, I think I'm butchering his name, I think is Zobazali or Zobasoli. Is the Hungarian midfielder from Leipzig, top player. I think he only had like 6 goals and 5 assists this season, but he was I think he is going to a big team next season. He can play left wing, left centre mid. He has that Carrasco vibe about him, but just a lot more technical. And I think he's going to get a move to a big team soon. So, this has been my review of the European leagues, what happened in Europe this season in the last 8 to 9 months. I think that this transfer window will be one of the best transfer windows we've seen in terms of superstars moving around, in terms of teams building bigger squads to compete, because Man City actually really changed the game. I think you'll see lots of teams breaking lots of FFP rules and also starting to follow FFP rules a bit more, because UEFA and FIFA is a bit selective on the hands they slap in terms of giving bans. That's another video we will bring out soon. And it's just been a great season. It's been fun. It's been one of banter. Arsenal has lost the Premier League once again. And I'll see you in the next video. We're going to be bringing you all a lot more videos about what I think about the transfer window, Mason Mount, Harry Maguire. We're going to be talking about managers moving around. We're going to be bringing new content about the leagues, how they're changing the leagues, the rules they're going to be changing. Lots of things. And what we think about the new rules they're trying to implement in terms of with the World Cup new settings. And we're just going to be bringing you great videos going forward. So thank you again for coming and checking in again with the one and only Yaya Chino Falaci. It's been a great one, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.